have to know who's available and not available right by those signs. Like
Mm-hmm.
available people are going to want to get to know you at a deep level. Unavailable people can't go deep. They're not healed. So they don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to go deep. So they just do very surface things. And then once that starts to happen, it would just be block because there's really nothing to say.
This is episode number 568 with Marlisse Testa, Healing from the Past for Healthier Relationships. Marlisse wrote a book that we are going to be talking about, and it's really about healing, the healing journey to really be able to attract your best partner. And there's tons of great advice, and I'm excited for you to listen to this podcast interview. Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Weiner. Welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I've written 2 books, and a third one is being written as we speak. The first book is called Becoming a Woman of Value: How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this book is filled with 30 chapters. Each chapter really helps you to grow your self-worth, to feel better about being a woman, learning how to speak up, to show up, to understand your values. Lots of great tips. Every single chapter has an exercise. And the same thing for the second book, Choice Points in Dating. This book I wrote it because I just kept hearing, I'm not a choice. I have no choice. And we all have choices, but we may not be clear how to make those choices. And I'm sure we're going to be talking a little bit about that today on the podcast. So you can find both of these books on Amazon for Kindle or paperback. This week's tip from the Woman of Value book is step number 7: be the love you wish to find in the world. So many times we're looking for something that we're not. I know that was kind of the advice that I had before I got married back in my 20s. Look for the traits that you don't have. Look for somebody who has all the things you don't have. And while that's a lovely thing, and you can find your complement, and you can find sometimes opposites attract, but you really want to work on yourself so you can have that open-hearted love that you can give to somebody else. Because if you're coming with an empty vessel, which so many of us are because we haven't healed, you are going to attract whatever you are in the moment. So really do that work of healing before you embark on a lifelong relationship, because it is just so crucial. And we'll be diving into that topic today. Before I bring Marlisse onto the podcast, I just want to recommend my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. And if you are a woman over 40, sorry guys, this is just for women. We are an amazing group of support. We have 7 incredible monitors who keep this group safe and sane and keep it from going down all of these horrible cesspool holes that most groups go down, because I truly believe that whatever we put out there is what we attract. And my guidelines are based really on my mission statement of how we communicate, how we set boundaries. The way that we interact with each other really it's about everything that we do, not just our dating. And so in this group, we are really on top of all of that. And there is no just like dating sucks and men suck. That's not what we stand for. So join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my guest, Marlisse Testa. She is a licensed mental health counselor in Florida. She works with teens, adults, couples, and families. And she does a lot of things. She treats depression and anxiety and mood disorders, personality disorders, trauma, PTSD, relationship issues, divorce, dating, grief and loss, self-esteem, self-care, assertiveness training, and more. She also has trauma training, and she's a certified integrative medicine provider. She's also, if that isn't enough, a trained narcissist abuse therapist. So many really valuable things that Marlisse is trained in. So whatever you got, go see her, because she's can do it all. She's here today to speak to us about her new book, Stow Your Luggage When Dating: Practical Ways to Get Back into Dating While Putting Your Past Behind You to Have a Healthy, Vibrant, and Lasting Relationship. Welcome back to the podcast, Marlisse.
Great. I'm so happy to be here. It's so good to see you again and to be able to talk more about how we could make people who listen more informed about how to find and have a healthy, happy, lifelong relationship.
Such important work. And I loved our first conversation. And now we're going to dive a little bit deeper. Tell us why you wrote this book.
Like you just mentioned, all the things that I do, all the different people I work with, and all the different specialties I do have. But it always comes back to people that are in relationships, people that are getting divorced, people who are looking for love. And I feel like it's a cycle of those three things that are always going on. And so the idea was really to write a trilogy on dating, relationships, and divorce. And I've gotten through the first book. We'll see where we go moving forward. But this is always in the room. So if I'm working with somebody on anxiety or depression or on healthcare or self-esteem, they're always at one of these places in their life. And I felt dating was, considering that where we are in our day and age, a lot of people are single again, especially during COVID. Like I felt like COVID was a huge time where people really got to take a really good look at their marriages and their relationships, and a lot of people ended up breaking up. And so there was a lot of single people, and they were all it was like that time to get the book out. This is the time to call upon all those people and try to figure out where they're at and get them into a healthy relationship now, because obviously something went wrong before, and trying to figure out what that is for each person. We talk about past relationship, we talk about childhood wounds, all the different things that put you in a position to be in a happy, healthy relationship.
Yeah, people don't realize how far back our relationship patterns go and where we pick up all the data that gets imprinted in our brains and how we attach and all those things. And so it's so critical to do the deeper work. So many people just go out there and think that if they buy the right clothes and flirt the right way, that's all they need. And then they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Our parents didn't teach us that. They didn't know, because they all were successfully married younger, because they had a whole different, it was a whole different era of time. People got married out of high school. They were together for longer periods of time. Our parents didn't have the information to educate the next generation on, hey, this is what you need to do. So our generation's going in and out of relationships, in and out of marriages. So like they might have been married once for 50 years, and then maybe something happened, where most people I meet have 1, 2, 3, 4 marriages, maybe 20 relationships in between, and they just bounce. And they just don't know. That people, I don't think, have any clue that they knew. I think they're just going off feelings. When you have a breakup or a divorce, it feels horrible. There's a void, and they're just filling it. They're not realizing that we as humans have to fill our own void in order to get healthy and then find the next relationship. They're just throwing some next person in the little void spot, and that feels good, but they're actually causing more damage to other people, because hurt people hurt people. So that person could have been ready and healthy, and then you throw in someone from divorce, and then so I feel like people just don't know, which is why the book was so important. I think that more and more people like you and I out there spreading the word and getting it out there is very helpful. But I just don't think that people really knew or know until they learn.
In my experience, my parents were married for 29 years, but the marriage was terrible. And I think a lot of people stayed married for a very long time because divorce was a stigma.
Taboo. Yeah. Right. But they didn't know either, but they can't educate you, even if they were divorced, because there always were some divorce or people who had a parent pass away. Like they didn't know what to do really after that, because there was so much stigma. So like they can't really then educate you. They just tell you to find somebody healthy and don't stay in a bad relationship. Well, that's just touching the top of the iceberg. There's just so much more, right? So much more to that.
Yeah. And I think I don't think I was told not to stay in a unhealthy relationship. I think I was told, get married and have kids. That was really the focus, was make sure you do it before you're too old. And the society all supported that. And there was no role model whatsoever. There are very few people who are happily married, who are really healthy and have conflict resolution and know how to do all the things that healthy couples do. And so we're lucky we have this information today.
Definitely. Because we all
Yeah,
need it. Everybody needs it.
we all need it. You mentioned in the book the ice cream theory, and tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
The ice cream theory is basically goes back to who you are. So it's kind of like a nice way of finding yourself and knowing who you are before you date. So I always say that once you fill out the ice cream cone for yourself, when you're on dates, you should internally in your brain fill out somebody else's, because you have to be a whole cone with ice cream and everything in order to be ready to date. So the ice cream theory is where the bottom of the cone is your moral compass, your ethics, your morals, your belief system, what you were taught when you were younger, things that are unchangeable. Your cone is a solid, I'm using the ice cream because it's more fun than using a house, right? So it's like your foundation. And then the ice cream is the things that make you who you are, your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do. So that would be like if you like to work out or play tennis or go to art class or listen to these songs or your favorite food. And those things are always changeable because obviously as we grow and evolve, the things that make us happy change. But those are very important that we do ourselves to make us happy. Like no one can make us happy but us. So we have to be in charge of that ice cream. And if you find that you don't have things that you might not have, your ice cream will melt because you're not going to know really who you are. And then that could, right, make the cone soggy, probably, because then you'd question your values and your morals. But as long as you make yourself happy, then that would be important to keep you where you need to be. And then on top of that would be your whipped cream, your hot fudge, and your sprinkles, which I call the people in your life that add to your life. Like everybody in your life that you choose, they're an addition to your life. So you don't want to put someone in your life that's taking things away from you. We all have met toxic people or people who might be going through a rough time. Now, absolutely, we're there for our friends and we have friends that go through hard times. We're there for them. But there's a difference between being there for someone who's healthy and is having a hard time than being there for somebody who's just draining you and sucking you dry. So you have to be really in tune to who you're spending your time with and who you're giving time to. So the top of the ice cream, the sprinkles, are the people who add to your life, or I also call them the constants. The people that are always in your life, always very supportive. It could be a mother, a sister, it could be a best friend, but the constants, the people who add to your life. And it's always good to always keep in check with that, because people can change and you just have to make sure that the people in your life are adding to your life and that you're having that healthy relationship. So when you have that and you figure out your cone, then you're able to see that in other people. Like if you're on a date and they don't have anyone in their life, or they don't know how to make themselves happy, or they don't really know what the moral compass is. I don't really know what my religion is. I don't really know what my belief system is. I don't really know right from wrong. Those are problems. That's a problem. Oh, great. Thanks for the coffee. Got to go. So, though it's important to be whole and to have and know who you are first before you're out there. And then it's important to make sure that the person that you would want to find in your life would know who they are, because you're both solely responsible for your lives. Like you're two people that date, you're on your own choo-choo trains and you integrate each other into your lives, but you're still your own identity. You're still your own person, right? That's the difference between independent and codependent, is that you know what makes you happy, you know what you need for yourself, you know what your moods are, you know when you need to be left alone, you know what you like, when to be with people and when not to be with people. You're in charge of yourself and you want the same from someone else, and that's what creates a healthy relationship.
Yeah, this is so good. Most people fill the ice cream part and they don't have the other two parts. And I always say that people kind of date backwards. They connect on common interests, which is not the foundation. So you can both love the same musician and concerts and like to bike and like all those things. But if you don't have the same ethics and values and connect on the bottom foundation part, it's going to fall apart the first time you have a fight. It's going to fall apart when things don't go well. And so, and if you don't have enough of things in common in the middle part, then
Mhm.
you're both going to kind of live these separate lives. Or one person has things that make them happy and the other person really doesn't. So they are expecting their partner to be everything for them, which is really unhealthy.
Right. Resentment, then that resentment happens, right?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. And then the top, the people who add value to your life. I mean, I've seen this really ruin relationships where either people don't have people to support them. I remember years ago, I dated somebody who was fairly newly divorced and he was falling apart. Like you could see he had no solid friendships. He had nothing in his life that really fueled him. And I could feel, after one date, I wanted to be as far away from him as possible because it just felt like he was going to look at me as his everything. And he basically said that when people get older, they have less friendship, fewer friendships. And so their spouse is everything, and I'm like, no,
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't agree with that.
right. You just have to always sit at the large table, no matter how old you are, So,
Yeah. Yeah. And you may have fewer friends. I certainly do because I'm much more discerning about everything in my life, but they are your friends. They are the people they're there for you. They're your people. The other thing that happens a lot when you get into relationships later in life is that people don't understand their priorities. So I have seen people who have children who are older, they're in their 20s, but they still will baby them. They will prioritize them, even though they made a commitment to a partner. They'll drop everything for the child. And this has really destroyed relationships. So I'm
mm,
curious what you have to say, because that kind of feels like the top layer where these are your people, but what are your priorities?
that's important what you're saying because we can't really change people. So, like, if somebody feels like their children, their adult children, are still really a priority, and they can't create that boundary where they can now have a relationship for themselves and learn how to balance different relationships, and that might not be a good healthy partner to be with until they realize that as children grow up, then there's that space where usually when children go off to college, where the parents then either rekindle, or if you're single, you're actually able to go out and find more time for you, which is great because people change their careers and they find more hobbies and they're able to have these relationships. And if someone's not there and someone doesn't see it that way, your job isn't to make them see it that way. It just kind of means that they have to figure that out, and you just might need to see that as a red flag or a yellow flag or some kind of flag and say that's not going to work for me. Can't change how other people think, and if that's what they want to do, then do that without me.
Mhm. And it takes a lot of self-knowing and self-awareness to know what that line is that you don't want people to cross. I think that takes a lot of that work. And I'm sure that kind of the ice cream cone helps you to start to develop who are you. And you mentioned like some of these flags. So tell us some more signs that people really are not right for you, those red flags, those yellow flags that you should just walk away.
In my book, I specifically touch on a lot of topics very briefly, just enough where kind of like it will help you identify what you're looking for before you're out there so that when you hear these things that you can say, ooh, this is not what I decided I wanted. If it be somebody's too far away, or if they have a family, like, children, family is huge, right? So like maybe they're adult, but then there's a lot of people who are older now that have really young children too. So like people have to decide before they get out there, what they really want as far as, do you want a relationship with somebody who has little kids? Like, do you want someone, and my book kind of goes through a lot of these mini chapters. But yellow and red flags. So yellow flags are things that you have to keep, that might not be like a deal breaker, but you need to think about it. Like, there's something about it that doesn't feel great, but you still could kind of pedal. A red flag is a non-negotiable, I call it. Like, a red flag is something that you don't want. Like, if you're We're not, there's a lot of people out there, especially in Florida. We have a huge population of people in recovery, let's say. And that's something that you have to decide if that's something that you want, if you want to date somebody that maybe can't drink ever again for the rest of their life. Some people really like to have a nice bottle of wine when they go out for dinner, right? So these are things that you have to decide if you would want to date someone that has that or not. And that's up to you. Some people have no problem with it and some people do. But these are all things that you have to decide before you get out there what is a negotiable and what is a not a non-negotiable as far as dating. And it goes into that kind of like flags for you. So, like I said, the ice cream theory, you want to know that somebody's a whole healthy person. It's very, very important. It talks about conflict resolution. A lot of times we could see how people handle things right off the bat if you cancel on them. If you cancel on them or if you show up late, hey, I'm running 10 minutes late. Like sometimes it's good to do these things purposely just to see how people handle it. Like, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. Could you get a spot, at the coffee bar or the bar and I'll be right there. I might be 10 minutes late. And you see how they handle that. Great. I'll order you something. I'll see you when you get here. Drive safely, no rush. Or verse, like, what do you mean you're running late? Like, like if somebody starts to get mad at you, that's a red flag. Because if they're mad at you about being 10 minutes late, what is the first fight going to look like? Remember, when you meet someone and you're dating, the first, 3 months or so, 3 to 6 months, I say the people are on their best behavior. Like you're seeing the best version of somebody. So if they can't act appropriately and they're not their best, and you should be they should be amazing. And if they still can't be amazing in that time frame, and that in itself is a red flag.
I agree. I mean, I've seen people show up for a first date looking like they just rolled out of bed and put on yesterday's clothes. I mean, come on.
Sometimes people will make excuses because they want to date, they want somebody so badly, and this is where the self-esteem comes in, and the worthy and knowing your self-worth is that that's not okay. But sometimes people are like, well, maybe they had a hard time, and they just make excuses for that person. But
yeah,
there's billions of single people out there. There's no reason for any excuses for anybody. If you're not showing up like that, they shouldn't show up like that,
exactly. Yeah. When I go online with clients and we shop for men online or women, I have a few male clients. It's like I can see this morning I was working with a woman and we were searching and she was like, I don't know. And I look at the way this guy is messaging and he's not putting any effort in and his pictures are terrible. And he's writing like, hey, gorgeous, hey, sunshine, hey, beautiful. And I'm like, it's not even, it's a no-brainer. This guy has not said one thing about your profile. Your profile's extremely detailed. You can pull from anything. He can talk about so many things and he's keeping it really vague. Don't even waste your time. You're putting too much energy into deciding at this stage. And so it's when you're used to giving people too many chances, this is the kind of thing that could happen.
You have to know who's available and not available, right? By those signs. Like available people are going to want to get to know you at a deep level. Unavailable people can't go deep. They're not healed. So they don't know how to go deep. So they just do very surface things. And then once that starts to happen, it would just be block, because there's really nothing to say.
And when you look at people's profiles, you can see, are they all surface? Are they just talking about sports and hiking and whatever?
We're not even filling it out. Some people
put that too.
And it's like, ask me anything you want on the phone.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's lazy. It's lazy. Too lazy to date, then you're not ready,
Yeah, exactly. And so don't excuse the inexcusable, for sure.
The faster you let them go, the more open you are to meet the right person. And you don't want to hold on to the wrong one. People aren't changing. People are who they are. It's not our job to help anyone. We're not here to save the world. We're here to find another healthy person that we can connect with, and things should be so much easier than especially at the beginning. Like the beginning should be the best time of the relationship. It shouldn't be difficult. You shouldn't be dating someone for a month and be like, oh my God, I'm so upset. Like that shouldn't come out of your mouth, No. It should just be like, this is wonderful. The beginning should be wonderful. Right. Even if you have disagreements, you should be able to agree to disagree, because you're still two separate people with two separate minds, two separate souls, two separate eyes. And it should be great to hear other people's perception and perspective.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last first date to learn more and claim this offer. Another term you bring up in the book, you say, hold on loosely. I think this is kind of connected to what we've been talking about, but tell us a little bit about what that means.
Well, actually, Hold On Loosely is a song from 38 Special. So it's that song. It talks about not to hold on tight to somebody. So basically to have that, to have the boundaries and to be able to, it actually goes back to what you talked on briefly about style, personality types, as far as like anxious versus, there's anxious and healthy and avoidant personality types, right? So if you're an anxious type, so it's kind of like, I always look at it like a magnet. Like if you take two magnets and put them together on one side, they suck together because they're magnets. But if you flip the other one, it goes away. It's resistant. So basically what it is in dating is that you basically don't, if you get too anxious with people, they're going to go the opposite way. And if you're too avoidant with people, since people are too avoidant, they could go the other way. But either way, it's about having those healthy boundaries and creating that healthy distance with people. So not, most people that are anxious will cling. So it talks about cling status and knowing how clingy you are. And it's being able to not, and this is why I tell people to date multiple people if they can, or to have a lot going on in their life if they're not into dating multiple people at the beginning, because it keeps that emotion at bay. So you don't want to fall too fast, or you don't want to assume too quickly, or you don't want to put yourself into a fantasy. You want to be able to know that you have to take your time when you're in the relationship, and you have to pull yourself away from it. And usually if you're involved in your own life and you keep your normal routine, just like as if you were dating multiple people, you wouldn't have that you wouldn't attach too quickly.
Yeah, it's such an important thing to understand how you attach and what your attachment style is, because then you can modulate, you can work on, like for anxiously attached people, to not only not attach too quickly, but also speak up more quickly. Don't keep things inside, which, especially if you're in a relationship, to be able to say, this is the kind of communication I need. Is that something you can do, to be able to ask for what you need? Because I have had clients who the guy says he's going to call and he falls asleep, and she's immediately making up a story.
Oh my God,
that
like, I'm calling 900 times. I called them 900 times. And I'm like,
right.
900 times.
Yeah. So with her, she had an agreement with him that she could call him late at night. Like she could keep calling him. Like he said, I never mean to fall asleep on you. I'm exhausted. So she'll also say, don't commit to talking to me if you're too tired. Like I need to know those things. Like, please have the self-awareness that I'm too tired to talk. I'd rather know that than be expecting your call or having you not pick up.
Right. And on the same breath, it's kind of like she can work through a lot of that anxiety if she went to work on the anxiety, so that she wouldn't have it in that way. So, as much as we have these styles, now that we know about them, it's how do you work on that style and eliminate some of that anxiety in a relationship, because anxiety creates anxiety, right? So if one partner has anxiety, usually the other partner is going to get anxious too, because it's like contagious. So I usually find that my couples or families that one person has anxiety, the rest of the family has anxiety because that person creates the anxiety and it starts to just kind of like I said, it's like contagious. So it's
Hmm.
always good to work on like, okay, so it would be really good to work on how do you cope with that anxiety? What are some things that she could tell herself at night so she doesn't like, oh, he's probably sleeping. It's fine.
Right.
Leave a text that says, oh, hey, honey, I bet you fell asleep. Could you call me first thing in the morning? And then
Hmm.
she has to learn how to deal with that feeling. And then, right.
Yeah.
So it takes two, the dynamic of, and this goes once again back to like, and everything cycles back. Like if you work on your own ice cream cone and you have anxiety, you have depression, you have ADD, you have these things, you need to figure out how to keep that under control where it doesn't spread to the other person because it's not fair to put these demands on other people when it's your issue.
Hmm. Right. It's not their responsibility to
All
heal
every
you, to,
right,
right, to
right. To give you
caretake
this
you.
extra, right. You need extra care because you're anxious. Well, why don't you go work on that so that you're not anxious? Because that's
Hmm.
our stuff. That's our stuff.
Right. So in this case, this woman was working on her anxiety and she had a lot of great tools, but she still needed to let him know this is my nature. And so when I get like this, I'm not, I'm not dumping it on you, but this is what I need from you. And he told her what he needed from her. I mean, I think that that's a healthy conversation when she's not making him responsible because she is taking care of herself.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
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 Some people
So
don't
we,
and they go in like that. That's why I say,
yes,
yeah,
yeah, 100%. Those are the worst relationships. Like as soon as I feel it, I told you I felt like this guy had nothing
yeah.
going on in his life. This was so long ago, but it was just like, I am not that person for you. I will never be that person for you. So you talk about dating taking time, that we should hold on loosely, but what about the people who really get impatient? What are some other ways they can deal with the impatience?
Oh, the impatience of like the anxiousness of calling. Are they going to call? Do they like me? All those type of things.
Or more like the relationship isn't escalating fast enough. Like I want to meet that person, or maybe they're not meeting people fast enough. Like there's a lot of impatience. I just did a whole series, video series on impatience in dating for Instagram. People get impatient and they can self-sabotage with their impatience. So for people who tend to be impatient, what do you
Right.
suggest?
Right. So like you just said, part of it is just realizing. I think that the society is impatient in general. I mean, having having online dating is another sign of impatience because people are just like, everything's so fast. So I mean, I guess it's that constant reminder that you have to be patient because you can't rush through love. I mean, even if you find someone you like, you're going to go, everything has to be slow. So I guess a lot of it is that maybe they should put a huge sign in their house that says have patience. But if you have your ice cream cone intact and you're happy, like you have to remember, like if you're happy in your life, finding someone is great, but it doesn't become like the end all be all. Like if you're happy and you have your friends and you have your family and you have your career and you have all the, your gardening and your whatever you do, if you're happy, what happens is that dating is an extra thing. It's not the most important thing. So maybe if you're that impatient, then maybe you're really not as ready as you think you are. Because finding a partner is important for all of us. We all want to find that partner, but by rushing and doing it and finding oh, I'm not going to be happy until I find that partner. That's not the answer. So I think it's just really kind of putting your life in perspective. A lot of times when you're the happiest and you don't want a partner is usually when you find it because you're just so happy with everything you're doing and then all of a sudden you have to all of a sudden make room for somebody else, and it's like, oh, I wasn't really ready to do that, but this person's amazing and I want to, but like I really was so happy. Like, so you really want to put yourself in a place where you're feeling good, where it's not a pressure. You don't want dating to be a pressure. Like I have to find someone, we have to hurry up and we have to meet and we have to, no, 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 no. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be like that. It should be fun. It should be easy. It should be flowing. It shouldn't be a rush. Let's say your favorite meal is lobster and it's something that you don't get very often, but the time that you go out and get yourself a nice big lobster, you're going to take your time and eat it because it's something special and it's something that you don't do all the time. So it should be like the same concept.
Yeah, I so agree with that. So many people think that you get online and you meet somebody immediately and then you develop a relationship really quickly and then you get married and live happily ever after, because that's what's painted in the novels and the movies, and the truth is that we're looking for one good match. Really, that's it. It's one good match. And if you think about how long it takes to even build a friendship, meet the right friends, find the right job. When you make decisions out of pressure, fear, scarcity, you make poor choices. And
Absolutely. It's
so
like going to the
making it,
supermarket hungry. Don't do it.
yeah, don't do it. So that brings me to my final question, which is what I ask everybody. What are your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Other than maybe breezing through my book, because I think it has a lot of helpful tips and it's very easy to read, is actually basically what we were talking about. I always tell people, please be patient and stay on your dating journey. So know who you are, get all your tools ready, know what your boundaries are, know what you want, and take your time going out there and looking for it. Take breaks when are needed because dating is exhausting at times. So you might date for a while. And then if you feel like at that point you need a break, take a month off and take a dating break and then go back. Like, remember, it's supposed to be a fun thing. Dating is fun. You meet so many amazing people when you're dating. They just might not be amazing for you. You got at least 100 good people out there that will fit you. You just have to find them, and you all have to be ready at the same time. So just enjoy the journey. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey and it's fun. And a lot of people go in with drudgery, and those breaks are really important if you're starting to resent dating. I think this is great advice. So, Marlisse, you have a gift for our audience. Can you tell
I
us what that is?
Yes. I am going to give the first 5 people who contact me on my www.stowyourluggage.com site. I have at the bottom of my book site, I have a spot that says click to get in touch, and it will pull up an email, and you just write, I saw you on this podcast, last first date, and give me your email address, and I will send you a free ebook. And in the ebook is also a spot where it's a BOGO. So you could actually give it to somebody else too. So you could read it together if you want to, which is a nice little perk. So the first 5 people. So I am ready to give you guys some books and for you to read up, and hopefully you could use all this information to help you find your healthy partner.
Awesome. Well, that's what we all want here at Last First Date Radio, is to find our last first date. So I appreciate you giving such great tips on doing the real work that it takes to stow your luggage and really find that healthy, happy relationship, because it doesn't just come to the lucky ones and the ones who happen to be waiting around and not doing anything. Like, you really have to do the work. Yeah, they don't.
Or come down your chimney either.
No, they don't. They don't do those things. It's amazing.
You have to get out there. Yeah, you have to do the work.
You do have to do the work, and it's actually not really work. It feels great to do the work. I think that's what people don't realize. It's like scary for a lot of people, but to me, it's like you just become more alive and more you. Which, I mean, what's bad about that? That's amazing.
It's a journey. That's why it's a journey, because
Yes.
it's a good journey.
It is. So thank you so much, Marlisse, for coming back to the show, and good luck with your book. Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please rate and review us, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.